Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's coverage, we are going to continue our analysis of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And first and foremost, I wanted to address the continued air attacks that are taking place inside of the Tigray region by the Abiy loyalist forces. We continue to see attacks taking place really all across the Tigray region. Specifically, we're seeing it in southeast Tigray. We're even seeing it more now in central Tigray as well. And there has been a multitude of attacks throughout the Tigray region with both the utilization of drones and then obviously fixed wing aircraft. And we have seen some of the more intense casualties, the heaviest casualties taking place inside of the Tigray region with the use of bomb trucks such as the Su-27 and the MiG-23 and some of the training aircraft and even helicopters are now being utilized to drop dumb bombs, much like the Syrian regime would drop barrel bombs via helicopter on civilian targets inside of Syria. But again, we're now also seeing what we would define as the indiscriminate use of drone attacks as well. And some of the more recent attacks that have occurred in the Tigray region and has caused tremendous amounts of casualties on the actual civilian population was done by drone attacks as well. So you would think that there would be limited use of drones in terms of utilizing some of the precision-guided weapon systems as they are expensive and more costly, and obviously the Abiy loyalist formations, the armed forces of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, intelligence agencies, and Air Force probably have more dumb bombs and rockets that they can affix to fighter bombers, fixed-wing aircraft, than the imported precision-guided weapon systems that they get from either China, Turkey, Iran. And again, some of the more recent incidents that have occurred inside the Tigray region are drone attacks on convoys that are mistaken quite possibly for an army convoy, a Tigrayan Defense Force convoy. But again, these attacks are being done fairly liberally and based on quite possibly very limited intelligence, and that has resulted in the death of multiple aid workers, United Nations workers, and then obviously we have seen the deaths of both children and women, non-combatants, inside of the Tigray region on a variety of targets throughout the Tigray region. And then in conjunction with that, we continue to see the use of the anaconda strategy, and again, I am utilizing that term as anaconda. It goes back to a previous video where I had discussed the initial strategy used by Union forces during the American Civil War, in which the Union forces utilized the anaconda strategy against the South in an attempt to blockade the South, or they were successful in blockading the South. So much like that strategy in the American Civil War, we are continuing to see that anaconda strategy being used against the Tigray region. And again, it's designed to really, at this point, starve the population of the Tigray region into quite possibly turning on the internal leadership within the Tigray region. But at the same time, it's coming at a great cost, and obviously many folks in the Tigray region understand that the anaconda strategy is not being implemented by the Tigrayan leadership. It is being instituted by the Abiy loyalist formations that are conducting said operation. But again, those are the two real big concerns right now from a humanitarian viewpoint within the context of this conflict. Again, the Anaconda strategy, and now the more indiscriminate use of air power, attacking what you can only define as civilian targets throughout the Tigray region. And I would have to say that given some of the optics that are on some of these drones that are being utilized, that one could only wonder if it is not an intent-based strategy, meaning that they are aware, the Abiy loyalist formations could possibly be aware that they are indeed attacking a civilian target and are going ahead and proceeding with said attack. Again, if you look at other drone attacks in other conflict zones, many times you can clearly see if it is a combatant formation or not. And again, that continues to this very day in terms of those strikes that are ongoing inside of the Tigray region. In other news, we're continuing to see a uptick in fighting near the border with Eritrea. Specifically, we're continuing to see engagements between the Tigrayan Defense Forces and now the Eritrean Army within the vicinity and northwest of Shararo. And we have heard reports that there have been repeated artillery duels between the two sides, between the Eritrean army, between the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and there has now even been direct infantry upon infantry engagements near the Tigray-Eritrean border. And that conflict between Eritrea and the Tigray region, specifically within the Shararo area of operations, appears to be increasing in tempo and fighting. Now, with that being said, we are seeing a lessening in some of the fighting that is occurring in southeastern Tigray. As we know, the Abiy loyalist formations and supported by Amhara regional militias attempted to re-invade the southern Tigray region, quite possibly with the goal of pressing as far north as they felt that they could actually progress. And as we know, those forces were defeated within the southeastern area of operations near Korem, Waja, Alamata, and have since been evicted. And now the intel that we are getting out of the region would indicate that after those defeats and a series of other defeats that the Abiy loyalist formations have experienced inside fighting in the Tigray region, that the desire to re-enter the Tigray region is now very, very low. And in fact, we may not see further incursions by the Abiy loyalist formations within the vicinity of southern Tigray and other areas along the southern Amhara-Tigrayan border as well. And I had titled this video Operation Kick in the Door. And the reason why I wanted to title the video is Operation Kick in the Door. It is a hypothetical look at a Tigrayan Defense Force operation to remove Isaias Afewerki and the despotic regime that controls Eritrea from power. And could the Tigrayan Defense Forces launch an operation to remove Isaias Afewerki from power? And I would say it's not outside the realm of possibilities. If we are looking at a current situation where we could no longer see the Abiy loyalist formations and Amhara regional militia formations enter the Tigray region, and the southern border with the Tigray Amhara region is secure, could the Tigrayan Defense Forces launch a successful operation into Eritrea to again remove Isaias Afewerki from power? And I would say again, that's not outside the realm of possibility. And first, we'll have to look at the distance from the Tigray border, from the the main capital city of Eritrea, which is here, Asmara. So again, if we go as a bird flies from the border to Asmara, and we're right at about 60 miles. Again, as a bird flies, 60 miles from the Tigray border to the main city, the seat of power of Isaias Afewerki in Asmara. Now, if we look at previous operations through terrain that was very rugged, that was also contested by the Abiy loyalist formations, and we look at the furthest advance by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and again, those forces from the border with the Tigray region to Weldia is 33 miles, to Desay and Kombolcha is 80 miles. So again, the Tigray Defense Forces have already progressed past what would be the needed point in terms of distance to get to Asmara. And not only that, the Tigrayan Defense Forces proceeded well past there, all the way to Shiarobit, which is 160 miles, almost double the distance that would be needed to get to Asmara. So again, what would that do for the Tigray region? Well, you could quite possibly see a merger, a confederation after the overthrow of that despotic government inside of Eritrea. You could see a union, a possible alliance between a free Eritrea and the Tigray region. And then it would also give, quite possibly, Tigray in this either full confederation or union with Eritrea a variety of port access, and again, along the lines of what the current Tigrayan Defense Forces strategy is to liberate Western Tigray with the border of Sudan. But this would even be better because they would then control their own ports, and they would not even have to rely on another country to receive food, supplies, and obviously systems that could help them defend themselves against the omnipresence of these drones. So what's the biggest nut to crack? Is it the Eritrean army, or would it have been the Abiy loyalist formations? And obviously the distance that it would have taken for the Tigrayan Defense Forces to get to Addis Ababa is a much greater distance than it would take for the Tigrayan Defense Forces to get to Asmara. Now, obviously, the resistance could possibly be more intense in some areas fighting the Eritrean army. The Eritrean army is very large. Now, with that being said, it is largely a conscripted and poorly trained army. It is a sizable force, numbering anywhere from 200 to 300,000 personnel. But again, the resources that Isaias Afewerki possesses to purchase high-end weapon systems is not the same as what the Abiy Ahmed regime has had in terms of being able to purchase said weapon systems. So the economic power and obviously some elements of manpower are greater and much more challenging in terms of attempting to overthrow Abiy Ahmed versus Eritrea. The defense budget, I'm going to look here, my good old information, and for instance, the defense budget of the Eritrean army is just a couple $100 million. It's very, very low. The gross domestic product of Eritrea is just $5 billion, so significantly less than that of the Abiy Ahmed regime. So again, you're looking at both a significantly less population, 6 million people in Eritrea, versus well, we know that the Amhara region, numbering 20 million, appears to be fairly well supportive of the Abiy Ahmed regime, or allows Abiy Ahmed to call himself prime minister. Then obviously you have the Oromia region as well, and there is an element of the Oromo population that supports obviously Abiy Ahmed, and then there's other ethnic areas of the former state of Ethiopia that support Abiy Ahmed. But in, again, Eritrea, with 6 million people, that amount is much lower than the total manpower of the Abiy loyalist assets. But again, I had called the video Operation Kick in the Door, just how resilient would the Eritrean army be to the prospects of an attempted removal of Isaias Afewerki from power. There is a deep discontent inside of Eritrea that may not be known. And many persons in the world may not understand what is truly going on inside of the despotic regime of Eritrea. It is draconian and is much like what you would see in a state such as North Korea. So there's very few nation states on the planet that control its citizenry like Eritrea or like North Korea. But again, is it a house of cards that the Tigrayan Defense Forces could simply kick in and it falls apart very quickly, giving the Tigrayan Defense Forces access to much needed ports and obviously the ability to have somewhat of infrastructure in terms of receiving aid and supplies from the outside world. And I would not think that many Western democracies would be opposed to seeing a despotic regime such as that of Eritrea, of Isaias Afewerki, being removed from power. So again, it is something that would be challenging, would not be impossible, and quite possibly it could be at a certain point less challenging than, for instance, the operation that we have recently saw, in which we observed the Tigrayan Defense Forces penetrating well over 100 miles into the Amhara region and getting very close to the capital of the former state of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, also known as Fenfene. So again, the concept of said operation is something that is probably right now not being planned, but in theory, the operation could be quite possibly less challenging than what we have seen in some of these other operations conducted by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And I talked, and I said that the possibility of a invasion of Eritrea was not likely. Well, I would say it's not likely as long as there is high-intensity warfare going on between the Abiy regime and the Tigray region. But we're starting to see the Abiy loyalist formations appear to be worn out and no longer have the desire to enter the Tigray region. So the Tigrayan Defense Forces would be able to hold its southern borders from any possible threat by the Abiy loyalist formations, and then could conduct an operation to quite possibly, again, kick in the door and remove Isaias Afewerki from power. Again, not outside the realm of possibility, and I just wanted to have a conversation about that. We're watching the situation ongoing in Western Tigray, and we'll have more information on that fighting as it continues. And again, the fighting that is now taking place along the Eritrean Tigray border. We'll hope to have more content very, very soon. Thanks for joining us. More to come very, very soon. Have a good day, everybody.